The world was quiet as the sun began to rise over the city skyline, casting a warm, golden hue over the bustling streets below. It was the kind of peaceful morning that offered a brief pause in the otherwise chaotic pace of life. On mornings like this, everything seemed possible. But for Emma, the silence only reminded her of the emptiness that had consumed her life. Emma had always been a fighter. As a young woman, she faced her fair share of challenges, but she'd always managed to push through. Graduating from a prestigious university, landing a dream job, and building the perfect life, on the outside, it looked like she had it all, but behind closed doors, she was crumbling. A heavy darkness clung to her spirit, weighing her down more each day. Anxiety, self-doubt, and the feeling of being trapped in a relentless cycle of expectations had taken hold of her heart. Her personal relationships began to suffer. The bright, outgoing woman her friends once knew had become a shadow of her former self. Emma's daily routine turned into survival. Get up. Go to work. Go home. Repeat. The pressures of life had cornered her, and she saw no way out. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the office, Emma found herself sitting in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The overwhelming stress, the constant fight against her own thoughts, it was all too much. She realized she had reached a breaking point. Something needed to change. But what? How could she break free from this suffocating feeling? In her moment of despair, Emma remembered a conversation she had years ago with her grandmother, a wise woman who had lived through unimaginable challenges. Her grandmother had once told her, "The greatest battles are fought within, Emma. But you don't fight those battles with brute strength. You fight them with wisdom. You heal with understanding, not resistance." Those words echoed in her mind that night. Wisdom. What was wisdom? Emma thought about the word carefully. Wisdom wasn't just about knowledge or intelligence. It was about learning from experiences, listening to your inner voice, and accepting the lessons that life brings, no matter how painful they may be. Wisdom was the light in the dark, the calm during the storm. It was what she needed most. The next morning, instead of jumping into her usual routine, Emma decided to take a walk through a nearby park. She hadn't done this in years, not since her college days. The fresh air, the chirping birds, and the simple beauty of nature were things she had forgotten to notice in her fast-paced life. As she walked, she thought about the wisdom her grandmother spoke of. She realized that for the first time in a long time, she was beginning to hear her own thoughts clearly. Emma decided to seek help, something her pride had always prevented her from doing. She reached out to a therapist, someone who could guide her on the journey of healing. In those early sessions, she learned that healing wasn't about fixing everything overnight. It was about understanding her feelings, accepting her struggles, and slowly learning to let go of the need for control. It was a path of patience and forgiveness, especially forgiveness toward herself. One day during therapy, the counselor asked Emma to reflect on her past challenges. Not the external ones, the failed relationships, the work stress, but the internal battles. What had she learned? At first, Emma struggled with this question. Her instinct had always been to run from her problems, to bury them deep and move on. But the more she thought about it, the more she began to see the wisdom in her pain. She realized that each of her struggles had taught her something invaluable. Her anxiety had forced her to face her deepest fears. Her self-doubt had shown her the importance of self-compassion. The endless cycle of work and stress had revealed to her the emptiness of chasing external validation. Each challenge, painful as it was, had been a teacher. Slowly, Emma began to incorporate the lessons she had learned into her daily life. She started meditating each morning, giving herself time to reflect and find peace within. She began to practice gratitude, focusing on the small, beautiful moments in her life instead of the things she didn't have. Most importantly, she started forgiving herself for her past mistakes and stopped trying to be perfect. But life wasn't always smooth. There were days when Emma felt like she was back at square one, overwhelmed and lost. One such day came unexpectedly, right when she thought she had finally turned a corner. After a stressful work meeting, she broke down. It felt like all her progress had crumbled in an instant. She sat in her car, hands trembling, feeling like she had failed once again. That evening, Emma called her grandmother. Tears streamed down her face as she explained how defeated she felt. Her grandmother listened patiently, then spoke the words Emma needed to hear. "Child, wisdom isn't about never falling. It's about learning how to rise every time you do. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a winding path, and sometimes, the greatest progress is made when we stumble." It was in that moment that Emma truly understood. Healing wasn't about reaching a destination. It was a journey, one filled with ups and downs. The real power of wisdom was in embracing the process, in learning from every setback, and in trusting that each step, no matter how small, brought her closer to peace. Over time, Emma found herself becoming more resilient. She stopped measuring her life by external achievements and started valuing the inner peace she had worked so hard to cultivate. She learned that life's challenges were not obstacles but opportunities to grow in wisdom, strength, and compassion.